Well, the next year in '99, you're still playing for the Suns, and out of nowhere, you'd have an emergency surgery where you got your appendix removed,
Right.
and which is a very standard kind of surgery, but the doctor prescribed OxyContin,
Yeah.
and that set off a whole new set of problems.
Yes. So, yeah, I had this emergency appendectomy in Oakland. We were there to play the Warriors, and I went in. I had the appendectomy. I came home, flew home with the team that night after the game, and got off the plane. And the doctor gave me a prescription for OxyContin for a month, and said, "Here, take this." And I was like, "OxyContin?" He was like, "No, trust me on it. It's fine. It's new." And I said, "Okay." So I took it, and I've said this a billion times by now, but in a day or two, I was madly in love, like, with this drug. It was everything that I'd always hoped I would be. Like, I felt like it made me nicer. It made me funnier, made me smarter. It made me a better dad, a better husband. Like, I'm at this point, I know I've suffered my whole life from depression and anxiety. This was like a miracle for me. I always felt like an asshole a little bit, because when people came up to me that knew me and I didn't know them, there are times that I would be wanting to watch our kids play or wanting to watch the game or whatever. And when people would come up, I probably didn't give them the interaction that they were looking for, just because I didn't want to talk to everybody. And that drug took that anxiety away. People would come up, talk. I really did. I felt nicer to them. And to me, that was just something that was super attractive.
Well, yeah, but that turned into a full-blown addiction.
Yeah,
You talked about
I
how
never
you
picked
would
up
go from
another basketball. I didn't, and when I look back, that a good friend of mine, John Lucas, is somebody he's been sober for 30 years. I've been clean for 9.5 years, but John has always said, a professional athlete dies twice, at the end of their career and at the end of their lives. And I think there's really some truth to that. All I was in my mind was a basketball player my whole life until I stopped playing. And if you don't fill that void with something positive, you're going to fill it some way. And all those game winners in practice and in games, and causing an opposing coach to burn a timeout that he's going to lose sleep over. All that stuff is a real rush. It just is. It's so fun. It's hard to describe. And when you leave, when you stop playing, that's gone, and you don't even know it's going to be gone. So I just went straight from playing to self-medicating, and I was off to the races. In a matter of 18 months, I was taking about 40 Vicodin a day and about 10 OxyContin a day. And the OxyContins were like 7 to every 1 Vicodin. So it's roughly 50 Vicodin a day, or 100 Vicodin a day. I was a mess, and I needed help.
Well, yeah, not only were you popping oxys and Vicodins every day, but you were also going to the horse races.
Oh, yeah.
And this is, you now no longer have an NBA salary.
Well, true and untrue. I am still being paid for the next 3.5 years by the Suns. They still owe me $13 million.
Oh.
So, yes. So I do have money. And also, I think by that point, I had actually saved like $5 million. So, yes, I was, and to that point, I'd say I'd made 12. So I was not, my gambling, where it was a problem, it was not what it was going to become.
Okay. Well, finally, at one point, Danny Ainge actually got you to go into rehab.
Yeah, he came to me. Danny's one of my good buddies, and somebody I really admire and look up to. And his wife and my ex-wife were friends and are friends. And he came to me and just said, "Hey man, you look terrible." Danny wasn't coaching. He had finished coaching and he hadn't taken the Celtics job yet. He was living in Arizona. And he asked me over to his house and he was like, "Look at yourself and what you're doing. You're tearing your family up. You're out of control. And look at you. You look bad." And I wanted to stop taking the medicine. I didn't know how, so I went to rehab, and I got there and spent a month, and 7 days of just hell and detox, and I got out, and I was so happy to be off the medication. But then I got home, and I had this like pit in my stomach, and which I always thought was like withdrawal, and for 6 months, I bet I had that feeling. If we went to a movie, I would take a pillow and put it over my stomach and just had this achy, dull pain in my stomach. And I had to get another surgery on my wrist to have a screw removed that was working its way out on its own. So I went in, and where I should have said, "Hey, I got a problem with opioids," of course I didn't. And they gave me Vicodin for, it was outpatient surgery. I took one Vicodin, that pain went away. I was like, fuck. And so within months, I'm back to taking 20 Vicodin a day, and I can't whittle off, and I feel like the worst person in the world. And I went to my ex-wife because I didn't want to hide it. I didn't want to, and I just said, and we were married at the time, four little kids under 10. Yeah. So I just said I need help. So she helped me find a place that was kind of a rapid detox. It was a rehab, but not really. I went over to California. It was like a country club. I got off the medication, came back home, still had that pit in my stomach. I went to see a doctor, and he put me on something called Suboxone. And Suboxone's an opioid derivative that's supposed to wean you from opioids, and you're supposed to take it for a short period of time. And he put me on that, and I was on it for 10 years. I took it for 10 years, and over that 10 years, I just went from one, bad decision to another, and I just couldn't get off the medication.